Yo, welcome back to the GM Podcast. I'm Miller, and today we will be speaking about more sports, obviously. Our main topic will be the 10 coaching hires that have happened in this coaching cycle. 10 is crazy. 10 people lost their jobs and have been replaced. We will be ranking them from the worst hire to the best hire, in my humble opinion. And then we will also be talking about the Kawhi Leonard All-Star snub. It was just announced that he will be playing because they needed another United States All-Stars to play, which he should have already been there, but it is what it is. And then we will also be talking about some Charlotte high school sports, something that happened last week, and just a take that I have that should be universal in my opinion. So we'll get into that at the end of the video. But first, let's start with ranking these coaches 10 to 1 in the coaching cycle. Before I start, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, get more of this content, enjoy more of this content. So yeah, let's get into it. All right. My worst, or let me not phrase it like that. The worst coaching hire of this coaching cycle was Joe Brady to the Buffalo Bills. There's a saying that insanity is doing the same things and expecting a different result. This is exactly what the Buffalo Bills are doing right now. I'm not saying that Sean McDermott shouldn't have been fired. I'm just saying that Sean McDermott shouldn't have been fired in this particular moment. I think what the owner, and I think it was particularly the owner because of how the press conference went and how almost disorganized and distraught he was, I think he misplaced his timing to where Sean McDermott should have been gone after the 13-second game. That was the moment to do this thing. But one thing you could say about Sean McDermott is that he took subpar defensive personnel and made them respectable defenses year after year. This year, when they lost in the playoffs, Sean McDermott was not the reason. He was actually a pretty big solution on why they made it this far, beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, who were just as good of a team as they were, and won a game with the Denver Broncos. Now you make a lateral move to get Joe Brady as your head coach, who will just have more responsibility. So who knows if the offense will be as good, because the offense was already good, right? It's not like it's going to take that next step. And will it really matter? Because once again, the defense has been the problem. And you pick up Jim Leonard to be your defensive coordinator, who has never done it in this league, right? At this point, your competition, and it hasn't been like this for the last couple of years, your competition is the New England Patriots, who at this point have, if Drake May wins the Super Bowl, I would say a top 5 QB and a better coach than you do, with way more cap space, and they will have a way better roster next year. So Joe Brady getting hired was such a comfortable hire, in my opinion. Comfortable for them. And for the Bills, I'm going to make the hot take right now. I think they're missing the playoffs next year. Right? I think there are so many teams in this AFC. You talk about the 3 teams in the AFC West. You talk about the Jags and the Texans. You talk about the Patriots. You talk about the Ravens. I just named 7 right there, guys. I just named 7 right there. You never know if the Bengals are going to finally turn around with Joe Burrow. Right? You never know if the Colts are somehow going to make a comeback with the talent they have on their roster. You never know if the Steelers, who are consistently a playoff team at this point, if they're going to win some games with Mike McCarthy, who is a pretty good coach. So this move just makes zero sense to me, and it felt like a panic move, especially when you don't have better options than Joe Brady. And I think they actually did have some better options, but they didn't go that route. They didn't go call Clint Kubiak and say, hey, do you want to come in? Now, they already have an offensive mind, but if Jesse Minter, if you knew he was on the market, if you knew Robert Saleh was on the market, if you knew guys like that were on the market, why was Joe Brady the move? The head coach was not the problem for the Buffalo Bills this particular year, and you choose to fire him this year. The owner said in his press conference, when he saw the look on Josh Allen's face and the entire locker room's face, he knew that he had to make a change. Why was the change firing Sean McDermott after this year? It just was not the timing. Timing is everything. And the timing of this firing and hiring makes zero sense. And it's very lateral. And as a divisional round team, I don't see you guys being a better team next year. I just don't see it. I don't see it, especially when the team in your division is on the upwards trend, no doubt, with all the cap space they have. So I think that Joe Brady move at 10 is the worst move that has happened in this coaching cycle. Number 9, Todd Monken to the Cleveland Browns. He is a 60-year-old coach, first red flag, who has never been a head coach. That should tell you, like, if he hasn't been a head coach before, a lot of teams, probably didn't want him as a head coach, and there were a lot of coaching opportunities this cycle, and he was nowhere to be found in any of them, right? He has been in a situation these last couple of years where the talent has spoke for itself. Lamar Jackson, if you have him on your team, your floor is automatically at least an average offense. Then you add Derrick Henry to the mix. You get 2 talented tight ends in Andrews and Likely. A good offensive line. Not the greatest receivers, I won't lie. But there's nothing Todd Monken has done with with his offense in Baltimore that has been impressive. Do we remember in the AFC Championship game where they lost 17-13 when everyone in the world thought the Baltimore Ravens were the best team in the league that year? Do we remember that? Do we remember them consistently falling off a cliff in the playoffs offensively, right? And once again, he had that talent to boost his resume, to boost Todd Monken's resume. Where's that talent in Cleveland? Nowhere's to be found, right? And we'll get into another team on this list later on who realizes that their personnel is not adequate enough to even compete for a playoff spot right now, so they took a big swing. The Cleveland Browns are certainly becoming, once again, one of the worst run organizations in football after these couple of years of 2 years making the playoffs under Kevin Stefanski. Jim Schwartz, who I thought would have been the hire because the defense has been great these last couple of years, and Baker Mayfield uplifting the franchise, that was very short-lived. And the Browns are right back to the bottom of the barrel. And if I was to do my 8 Legends of Greatness tiers for NFL teams, the Browns would be right down there at the bottom, right there with the Jets, and then I would have to figure out the other 2 teams. But those 2 teams right now, it seems like they have nothing going on. Now, the one thing I will say positive is that he seems to embrace the opportunity of working with Shedeur Sanders, right? He seems to love that opportunity, and I think a lot of people want to see Shedeur succeed. A lot of people in Cleveland, the Cleveland fan base, would love to have a guy like Shedeur Sanders succeed. So it will be interesting to see if he can do that. But I don't think he can, especially in that division when you don't have great offensive talent, right? You just don't. You simply don't. So that I'm not going to say that's a great hire as well. Number 8, we got Mike McCarthy to the Steelers. Another very, very questionable hire in my opinion. A lot of people in Pittsburgh and the Steelers organization have consistently said, we will never bottom out. We will never get to... rebuild is not in our vocabulary. We are always going to try to compete with the cards we are dealt. I understand that rationale. I understand that motivation. But can I give you guys a different perspective? I almost think it's more cowardly to tell your fans, hey, we're going to run this team back out there and we're going to try to win football games. Knowing that you're not going to bring it all home, when in this game, the ultimate goal is to bring it all home, instead of just saying, hey, we're going to start fresh. We're still going to try to win, because it's not like the guys in that locker room, the guys in that front office, the coaching staff is running out there next season and say, hey guys, we're going to try to go 2-15 and lose as many games as we can so we can get the number 1 quarterback in the draft. No one is saying that in the locker room. But you can say that throughout your moves. The Steelers would be so much better off if they just started fresh. The Steelers remind me of like Redbox. Is that what it was called? Redbox. Let me look this up real quick. Let me look this up because I'm sorry. I just thought about this on the fly, so I'm ruining your guys' time. Yes. The Steelers remind me of Redbox, right? If I saw someone, or if I saw my sister walk in the crib and she had a disc from Redbox in the big year of 2026, I would ask, what the hell are you doing? We have Netflix, Disney Plus, Max, Hulu, Peacock, right? Some people have Paramount Plus, cable. What the hell are you doing walking in with a Redbox case? Right? The Steelers, that's how I feel about the Steelers. What the hell are you doing walking in with all this old defensive personnel, this old quarterback whose ceiling is extremely low, and this coach who ceiling is extremely low, and the combination who fell out a couple years ago? It almost, and me talking about it right now, almost makes me want to degrade them even more. And I have them at 8 right now. And what I respect about it is they are who they are, right? That no one can tell them who they are. But I just think that it is extremely cowardly to make a move like this. Because, once again, you are telling your team, yes, that we're going to win some games, but no, we're not going to win it all. That's the message. That's the big message that people are missing. No, you cannot win a championship. There is no person in their right mind that thinks the Steelers can make the championship. Even the divisional round. So, Mike McCarthy, do I think he's a good coach? Yes. I think the thing I like about this hire is that they have been so bad offensively for the last couple of years that you would think this hire means that he can kind of get them back on track. But that is just such an organizational punt on future seasons to come. And I just don't understand it. I don't understand it one bit. All right, number 7. We got Jeff Hafley to the Dolphins. A hot coaching candidate. Defensive mind in Green Bay. I love the hire. I honestly do. And there's not a lot to say about this hire, other than the fact that the Dolphins as an organization just don't have anything going on. You don't have a quarterback. Your receivers are aging a little bit. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle probably at this point is not the great receiver everyone thinks he is. He's definitely not a number one. You still have Devon Achane, so that's probably the bright spot of your offense, the only bright spot of your offense. Your offensive line isn't very dominant. And your defense was actually coming along under Mike McDaniel last year at the end of the season. So why I do like this hire is that Jeff Hafley kind of erases all the problems that they had previously, right? And this is where I kind of get into the good hire. Like, this is a pretty solid hire for me. There's not a lot more the Dolphins could have done. And the fact that they've been called a soft team in these last couple of years, obviously remembering the Lions practice before this season, saying that it was the most outmatched practice or preseason practice that we've ever seen. I think it brings some toughness if he can implement his defensive schemes correctly. I don't know what type of leader he is for an entire roster, but I do believe that this is an inspiring move for the Dolphins. But yeah, the reason he's this low is just because the Dolphins really have zero going on. So I can't put him on a pedestal when I don't really think he changes the trajectory of this team for years to come, because they have zero bright spots, except for Devon Achane and a defense that came along at the end of last season. Moving into number 6, Mike LaFleur to the Cardinals. This was the biggest swing of this coaching cycle, right? No one thought he was going to be a head coach at this point in time. But obviously, brother of Matt LaFleur, who I am higher on than most, coached under Sean McVay. Rams had a great offense this year. He was the offensive coordinator for the Rams, and they were absolutely amazing against, I would say, one of the best defenses in football, top 3 defense in football, the Seattle Seahawks. They played them and ball up the field every single time, right? So I do think this was a big swing. Is he a leader of men? That is what we have to see, right? If this team comes out and is soft, we will know that straight up they're not very. This was just a bad hire. So I feel like with Michael LaFleur, we will know pretty early. But another thing with the Cardinals is their offensive personnel honestly is not that bad, especially their receivers. When you have Marvin Harrison Jr. and Michael Wilson outside, you get a pretty good running back. Jacoby Brissett for a year is not bad. The O-line doing what they can do. Trey McBride, a great tight end, one of the premier tight ends in this league. I like the hire. I really do like the hire. It's a big swing, not a great situation, but once again, nepotism in the NFL, it happens, and usually it works, right? We got the Harbaugh brothers. Let's see if the LaFleur brothers, can be special as well. I think it has the potential to be special, just not now because the Cardinals division is so stacked. But I do like that hire. At number 5, Clint Kubiak to the Las Vegas Raiders. Good offensive weapons already in Las Vegas. They absolutely need to go out and get a better receiver this year. They traded Jacoby Myers away. But you have Brock Bowers. You have Ashton Jensen, who I think is an absolute problem. You need to get that O-line better. That O-line is horrible. But with Fernando Mendoza, I think the Raiders in the near future, in about 2028 range, could be a special football team. You talk about what Clint Kubiak did this year. Once again, nepotism in the NFL. That Kubiak name means a lot to me. This Seattle team was, by a lot of people, not picked to make the playoffs. Let's remember that. Sam Darnold was not expected to have the season that he had. JSN was not expected to have the jump that he did. Cooper Kupp was called washed by a lot of people. The running back situation. Kenneth Walker underachieved compared to expectations in his first couple of years in this league, in my opinion. You get Clint Kubiak in the building, all of a sudden, this team is in the Super Bowl. So I think that this hire for the Raiders is just very wise, a step in the right direction, a young coach. They got to find some way to compete in this division. The division is absolutely stacked right now. You got young quarterbacks and great coaches all over it. So it's going to take a minute. There's not going to be a rush. But Clint Kubiak's number one job for this upcoming season is develop Fernando Mendoza. Make sure he at least looks serviceable, manageable for him to play in the league for the future. Because I think he's a great prospect. I've already told you guys I think he's the best prospect since Trevor Lawrence. And Clint Kubiak, I just love that fit for Fernando Mendoza. And he also has coached with Kyle Shanahan. So, once again, he knows his stuff. I think he's going to get in Las Vegas and do a great job. Next, Kevin Stefanski to the Falcons. The reason I love this hire so much is because it's safe. And that's exactly what I think the Falcons needed. I think Raheem Morris was an absolutely awful coach. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. And once again, it's very disappointing that there are only 3 black NFL head coaches right now. But Raheem Morris didn't deserve to be one of them. He was a horrible coach. And I just think that what Kevin Stefanski brings is stability. And you talk about what he did, winning two Coach of the Year awards, getting the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs for the first time in my life. That means a lot to me, right? A lot of people talk about how great of an offensive coach he is. I actually think that's a little bit overrated. I haven't seen the great offenses that he has coached. I've seen flashes. Obviously, him getting Joe Flacco in there balling. He obviously hasn't had great quarterback play, but Baker Mayfield was in his building. And I just never saw the great offense that people saw in him. Obviously, he was in Minnesota for a little bit with Kirk Cousins, so he helped out there as well as an offensive coordinator. But I just think his floor is high enough for Atlanta, especially with that defensive personnel, to maybe make the playoffs next year, especially in that NFC South. I just don't think anybody in that NFC South right now knows that they're going to make the playoffs. They knows that they're going to win the division. I think that's the biggest coin flip of a division winner in the NFL right now is the NFC South. And Kevin Stefanski for the Atlanta Falcons is a perfect hire because, once again, he presents a floor that is higher, much higher than whatever Raheem Morris had going on. And once again, the defensive personnel they have, the offensive personnel, let's not even get into that. This is probably the best offensive personnel Kevin Stefanski has had in his career. Once again, another questionable quarterback situation. I almost wonder if they want to make a trade. I would love to see the Atlanta Falcons get Malik Willis. Now, I don't think they have the money for that because they're paying Kirk Cousins so much. But That would just be an amazing fit. But yeah. Number 3, Jesse Minter to the Baltimore Ravens. This is when we get to the tier of I love the hire. These top 3, I love all the hires. All right. Jesse Minter to the Baltimore Ravens. The only reason he's at 3 and not 1 is because he hasn't been a head coach before, right? He doesn't have the experience. He's not proven, but he coached under Jim Harbaugh or with Jim Harbaugh as defensive coordinator. That defense in LA was amazing, and I don't think the personnel compared to what they put on tape and what they put on the field was equal. I thought he elevated that defense, right? You get younger in Baltimore from John Harbaugh, 62 years old, to Jesse Minter, who I believe is in his 30s or 40s, obviously. So he could be the coach there for a very long time, and usually I think they've had 3 coaches in their history, so he should be around for a long time. I think he was the hottest new coach, new name on the market right there with Jeff Hafley this year, especially defensive mind. And the Baltimore Ravens, as of late, these past 2 seasons, have been very streaky defensively. I'm not going to say they've been awful, but at times they look great. At times they look awful. The Baltimore Ravens culture is about defense. And if he can get that back to an even slate of them playing good defense week in, week out, I believe that this Baltimore Ravens team can win a Super Bowl next year. And if I was to predict who I think would win this or get to the Super Bowl in the AFC right now for next year, I would think it would be the Baltimore Ravens. And I think them missing the playoffs actually helps them in that regard because they get a little bit of time to sit back. Expectations are now relaxed because they did miss the playoffs. So I just think it's a great hire, man. I do. I think it's a great hire. And it's Lamar's time now. Let's see if he can do it. At number 2, we got John Harbaugh. Okay? John Harbaugh to the New York Giants. I love this hire for the New York Giants. You are getting, once again, a very high floor with John Harbaugh, who is a Super Bowl winning coach. And I just think with all the young names that you have in there, we talk about Abdul Carter, Malik Neighbors, Cam Scatterbull, Jackson Dart, all the young names that you have in there, you having a high draft pick. That adult noise, the adult voice in the room will make a big difference. And if I was to choose right now, the Giants would be a playoff team for me. Absolutely, they would be a playoff team. The talent is almost too much to just ignore, right? You have a good left tackle as well. So that is the exact coach that, once again, I'm an Eagles fan, that I didn't want to see in division, right? But props to the New York Giants for making that hire. And I do think John Harbaugh will take this team to the playoffs in his first year in New York. And that's just, it's an obvious thing for me. If Jackson Dart can stay out of the blue tent. And then the absolute best hire of this coaching cycle, in my opinion, was Robert Saleh. And a lot of this is also Brian Daboll being able to be the offensive coordinator. So the combination is kind of my number 1 spot. But Robert Saleh, I thought, was the best coaching candidate in the cycle this year. And a lot of people be like, how is that the case? When John Harbaugh is in the cycle and he's won a Super Bowl, John Harbaugh only has a couple years left, guys. Maybe not a couple, but he's on the older side. He's 62. Robert Saleh, I have never seen the Jets look that good while I have watched football. The Jets had an identity of great defense. Great defense. I bet the Jets are looking at it now with Aaron Glenn and are like, that's the guy we let go? The guy who just went to San Francisco and had practice squad guys all over the field and had them playing with their hair on fire? I wasn't old enough to see the Rex Ryan Jets or the Mark Sanchez Jets, so I know that was a good team. But since then, the Jets have just been a dumpster fire, and they still are. And Robert Saleh brought some identity to that team, and the leash that he had on him was not long enough, in my opinion. Like, they fired him in week 5, guys, when they were 2-3. Because, what, Aaron Rodgers wasn't happy? Aaron Rodgers didn't respect him? Come on, guys. Aaron Rodgers doesn't respect a lot of people. And the Jets giving up on Robert Saleh was a crucial mistake, in my opinion. And the fact that the Tennessee Titans who have made horrible decisions, horrible front office, ran Mike Vrabel out of town, got to a point to where they could acquire Robert Saleh and Brian Daboll in the same offseason for their young quarterback. It doesn't get much better than this, guys. And once again, these rankings are based off where a team was and where they are getting to with their hire. And I think this Robert Saleh to Tennessee is an amazing hire. Because once again, Robert Saleh, the defensive side of the ball with Jeffrey Simmons, that's going to be locked down by year one, I believe. They will be a great defense by year one. Then it's just going to be, and that's the thing about this thing too, you can be a little patient. Everything doesn't need to happen in year one. You can be okay in year one. Just show that there's some fight in this team. And you could develop Cam Ward and get some more offensive talent. And then you can make that jump. But this hire is easily the best in my opinion. Robert Saleh, once again, was a great coach for the New York Jets. They let him go because he wasn't winning games. Newsflash, Jets, y'all don't win games anyway. And I just think for the fit, I thought Robert Saleh was going to go to Baltimore. I did. But him going to Tennessee just elevates that franchise so much more than it was already at. And I absolutely love the hire. I just love it. So that's my coaching ranking. Let me know if you guys agree in the comments. Let me know if you disagree. But let's get into Kawhi Leonard getting snubbed from the All-Star game. Kawhi Leonard missing the All-Star game. What are we doing? What are we doing? Stop disrespecting my GOAT. Stop disrespecting one of my favorite players of all time. Right? A lot of people are going to bring up LeBron James. Is Kawhi Leonard, did he deserve the spot over LeBron James? Yes, he did. But LeBron James isn't the story here. LeBron James, if he wasn't in the All-Star game, everyone and their mother would make the biggest noise about how he's not in the All-Star. It would be a horrible thing to happen. We need LeBron James in the All-Star game, especially with the level he's still playing at. I would argue that he still deserves to be an All-Star. A lot of people also are bringing up, why didn't he make it over Denny Avdia? Well, that's also pretty easy. Denny Avdia, if you guys don't know, he's averaging 26, 7, and 7. All right, this is not the guy that we should be aiming at. My favorite team in the NBA is the Oklahoma City Thunder. I watch them pretty consistently on a consistent basis, and I can tell you guys right now, Chet Holmgren has become the most overrated player in the game. Most overrated. He is a glorified Rudy Gobert. He is a skilled Rudy Gobert. Chet Holmgren is a very skilled basketball player. Okay? Chet Holmgren is also only averaging 18, 8, and 2. 18, 8, and 2 compared to Kawhi Leonard's 27, 6, and 4. 27, 6, and 4. Only averaging 2 less rebounds a game. In the last 21 games for the Clippers, they are 17 and 4 because of Kawhi Leonard, who once again is one of my favorite players to watch in my entire life watching basketball. And at this point, I think deserves some of the same respect that guys like Curry, Durant, and LeBron get. He has been one of the best players in basketball since the Spurs won the championship in 2013 or 2014. So, Chet Holmgren getting in this game, there has not been a player to benefit from a championship more than Chet Holmgren. And I told the guy I do the podcast with, my boy Gav, this championship right here is going to do wonders for Chet. Because Chet is a guy, you look at him, tall guy, goofy looking guy, can shoot the 3 ball, hang pulls from Trey, what did he say? Hang hezzy from Trey ball is OD. That's my guy. I love Chet. But Chet at this point in time, I think this is his 4th year in the league, is simply not that great of a basketball player. Or at least to the level that people would lead you to believe. And people will tell you, well, he's the defensive player of the year. He's averaging 2 blocks and half a steal. All right, so he's a great defender, one of the best in the league. But nothing he is doing on the court right now merits an all-star selection. I would argue Alperen Sengun should be an all-star over Chet Holmgren. Chet, his problem is that offensively, there is no decisiveness. There is not a go-to move. There is not an element that scares you. And that's kind of where I get to the Thunder and how disrespected Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is. Because when you talk about guys like Chet, J-Dub, those guys are still so raw offensively. They are not natural bucket getters. They are not the most talented guys. The offensive workload Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has to work through night in, night out, with J-Dub being out and guys around him that are not offensive creators, especially with A.J. Mitchell not playing. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is doing things that are insane and I think haven't been done before. Because even when Curry was having his season, which I would put right there on par with Shai, obviously, or a little better or a little worse, he had Klay Thompson to lean back on. He had even Harrison Barnes, who could threaten you. He had Andre Iguodala, who time after time was a clutch shot maker. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I don't know an NBA champion that has had to carry more of an offensive workload than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I simply don't. LeBron James, you talk about LeBron, he had Kyrie, Nikola Jokic. He had Jamal Murray, elite guys to pass the ball. Aaron Gordon. Jason Tatum had Jaylen Brown. Giannis has Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander does not have a great offensive player on his team. That is just the facts. And Chet Holmgren is getting this all-star spot just because of where the Thunder are at right now. That is the reality. But the reason the Thunder are as great as they are is because they have an all-time shot creator and shot maker in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That is the reality. And an all-time defense. And it's not just Chet Holmgren that is playing this defense. You have 4 perimeter guys on the floor at all times that are playing great defense. So I'm a little confused on how Kawhi Leonard got snubbed for Chet Holmgren. And once again, I'm a Chet Holmgren guy. I like him. I think at one point he can make that jump to being a capable offensive weapon. At this point, though, he is just not. He is just not that guy. He is not that second option that you look to and say, hey, can you go get me a bucket when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is out of the game? He has to get his buckets in the flow of the offense. Jalen Williams has to get his buckets in the flow of an offense. So him making the All-Star game, I don't understand it. Once again, Sengun did not make the All-Star team. I'm sorry for not being prepared, guys, but I need to see Sengun's stats because if I'm not mistaken, Sengun is averaging 21, 9, and 6 on 50% splits. Come on, guys. I mean, I'm starting to get tired of the Pro Bowl and All-Star. Just let the experts do it. I'm tired of the fan. I get the fan vote. Let the experts do it. And if a guy like LeBron James isn't hooping enough, let's get him in the game. If Patrick Mahomes at the end of his career, his stats don't live up to it, and the Pro Bowl was something like we don't look at the Pro Bowl as the All-Star game. Where no one gets excited for the Pro Bowl. I think the Pro Bowl might be happening today and no one knows about it. But just let the experts do this thing because Alperen Sengun, 21, 9, and 6. Chet is 17, 8, and 2. Come on, man. I mean, it's not a conversation. Chet Holmgren should not be in the All-Star game. That's just how I put it. All right. And then last thing I want to talk about, which hopefully this isn't too hot of a take. I feel like this is a take that should be held by multiple people. But last week, there was a Charlotte high school basketball game that I won't clarify, but it was a heated game. Multiple great players, multiple great prospects. And if you don't know already, Charlotte high school basketball is just peak. It's most energy you will see. It's almost like an HBCU type of crowd, especially in those type of arenas, because the cheerleaders doing their thing, bands doing their thing, crowds getting rowdy. It's so competitive. And last week, it spilled over to the end of the game, and there was a little bit of an altercation, not brawl, not a fight. Nothing really too bad happened. But there were a lot of heads on the court. Let's just put it like that. And there were a lot of things that caused this. A couple of players on the winning team decided to dunk or try to go dunk after the buzzer, which has become a big thing now. And it's a heated rivalry game. Should they have done it? No. Do they probably know they shouldn't have done it? Yes. Do they regret doing it? Probably not. Let's be honest. I think what people don't realize is that high school sports, when you are competing for your city, is the most prideful and the most heated it's going to get. That's just the reality. It's more competitive than even the NFL when guys from different areas are going at it for cities that they are not from, that they don't feel as much pride for. When these guys from Charlotte are going at it with each other for the respect of their city, is going to get heated, and stuff like that is going to happen. So should they have tried to dunk the ball after? No. But stuff like that happens, right? When that happened, where were the coaches? I don't know. But I'm not going to get into that. I will another time, but this is what I'll say. Actually, no, let me get into that real quick. What I'll say about the coaches, if you are seeing that, I just wonder, and I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not making any accusations. I'm not trying to make a point. I'm just asking the question. Is the reason you are not stepping up and saying anything to your player just because you're not strong enough as a man to see that that's happening and bring him back so that nothing like a brawl happens at the end of the game? Or is it just because you want to keep that talent at your school, you don't want to make any bad blood, and you want to keep this talent rolling through your school? Because the school in question that I'm talking about has had talent rolling in and out of that school for the past 25 years at least, right? That school has been an elite basketball powerhouse for a long time. And my main point, after all that yapping, because once again, I don't even want to blame the coaches because there's a lot of stuff going on and they're probably they're just as participating in the rivalry as the players are. In Charlotte high school basketball, and probably high school basketball period, can we eliminate the handshake line? Can we please eliminate the handshake line? I get that it's supposed to be, a sportsmanship type of thing. Good game, good game. No, I don't want to say good game to the guy that I just went head to head. It's basically a boxing match. I'm throwing punches left and right, trying to get the ball in the basket, trying to beat you, trying to take the pride of the city. And after the game, I'm gonna go and say good game. None of those guys feel that way, right? And the sportsmanship takes place to where they're not brawling in the middle of the game, to where heated individuals can go at it, be in a physical matchup, and it not be any more than that. It's just basketball. It's always just basketball. To ask these kids who have so much pressure on them in the first place and have to put themselves through physical and emotional duress throughout the entirety of the game, to ask them to participate in a handshake line is such an outdated thing. There is no reason for it. We need to stop the handshake lines. All right, and I know some old-fashioned people are going to be, well, you got to have something that symbolizes sportsman. Once again, no, you don't, especially when stuff like that can happen. I would argue the detriments that a handshake line can hold outweigh the benefits that they do. Because after you walk through the line and say good game, it's not like you don't gain like a confidence from that. You only do it because people tell you that you have to do it. And if they didn't have to do it and they went their respective ways, right, the loser probably doesn't even want to be on the court after that. They just lost, a heartbreaking loss. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to see anybody. The winners, whatever they want to do, pop it on the court a little bit. Obviously, they're in enemy territory, so you might want to get your players off the court, coach, right? And that's how it will go. And I don't think there would be an altercation in that case. But the handshake line is such an outdated thing that I think needs to be eliminated from high school sports. It's as simple as that. Because, once again, a little bit of hate in sports is good. That's just what it is. That's what sells the tickets. That is what has these men so prideful, and not prideful in a bad way, almost just passionate about who they're fighting for. It brings out the passion in other parts of their life to where in their family they can defend their families in ways like that as well. Right? I don't see the point. And once again, those guys don't all hate each other, but in the confines of the game, they do. And it's not because of a bad purpose. It's not because they just hate each other. They hate each other's families or none of that stuff. It's because they're competing for something greater than just the W. I hate the fact that we're still doing this thing. And I just think it would be smarter to go ahead and dismiss the handshake line. But thank you guys for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe, please. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. And peace out.